All right, with that, we will go back to our story on the conversation, which is the second story, and it has to do with the Commonwealth. Shirley Botchwey, Ghana's Foreign Affairs Minister, has been appointed Commonwealth Secretary-General. And this historic appointment marks Africa's return to the helm after over 20 years following Nigeria's Emeka Anyaoku. Now, Botchwey's 7-year ministerial experience prepares her to lead the London-based secretariat. As Secretary-General, she will promote democratic institutions, governance and human rights among the Commonwealth's 56 member states. Now, Botchwey's leadership presents Africa with opportunities to addressing pressing global concerns like armed conflict and instability, economic transformation through the AfCFTA, and climate emergency mitigation, and so much more. Joining us on the show this evening, we have Thamsanqa Zhu. He's an African analyst. Hello, Thamsanqa. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening, Dashan, and good evening to your listeners as well. Good to have you.
It's a pleasure to have you. So, first of all, 20 years is actually a long time, but then finally, an African is at the helm of affairs in the Commonwealth. What are the likely possible gains for Africa in this?
There's quite a lot. I think, first of all, just to say, Daniel and Zil, that you've just been covering, it's good to see them looking good, looking lively. And I just hope that if there are, people who are interested in filmmaking, they could take up their story. And one day, maybe we could be watching Daniel Zil as an Oscar-winning movie out of the experience that they have. Now, going back to Madam Shirley, as we normally call her, Mrs. Botchwey, it's very interesting to contextualize and say it's the second African doing that, but most people in the Commonwealth would like to say the reason why there is the Commonwealth, they share a certain background, and especially if you are West African, there is that common, background, sharing, the history with people in the Caribbean in particular. And there are so many people in the Caribbean who just see her as one of them, and to carry forward what Baroness Scotland would be living in terms of the issues that she was putting forward. And I think it's also significant because when you consider the issues on the table, she is a person who understands them very well. She's been to she was, running the United Nations Security Council desk for that part of Africa, if you like, because she's the foreign minister in Ghana. I had that seat for just in the recent past, even during the course of last year when there were problems in the Middle East. So she understands these things. She's been interacting with a lot of people, and she is somebody that is easy to approach. So this is quite significant, not just for the Commonwealth in terms of Africa, but for others that are not even within the Commonwealth. She will be a very good person to go and see when you get to London.
Okay. Now, how will Africa's leadership, impact global policy making and also international relations, particularly when it comes to promoting African interests and values?
It is very difficult because in the main, people used to look to institutions like the United Nations where, diplomats, African leaders would actually bring the issues that they have to bear. But within the last few years, probably last decade, the United Nations has been a very difficult place when it comes to pushing, the issues that the Africans think are of national interest to them. The Commonwealth is seen, though, as one place where that could happen. And we see how this turned out in terms of how the support that she got for her to be elected in Samoa. There are so many people who think that the Commonwealth and the work that would be done through the Secretariat would reflect the voice of those African leaders who are within the Commonwealth. Remember, her job is to implement to the best of her ability with her staff those things that come from the head of states, of the member states within the Commonwealth. So she's not coming up with her own policies on, let's say, climate change, on trade, on, alleviating poverty, on, cultural issues, on sports, on youth, the digital stuff. She's basically saying, okay, what do you guys as the leaders of the countries that are member states want? And then it is up to her and her staff to then implement those things. So the fact that she has the experience that she has, the contacts that she has been able to make over the years, she was educated partially in Britain as well. Yeah. So she's familiar with those kind of areas. So it will be easier for her to implement. Dashin?
Okay. All right. So now conflict costs Africa $18 billion annually. Now, how do you think that the Commonwealth can promote peaceful conflict resolution? And, what plans should they have for supporting peace agreements in Sudan, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and also the Sahel?
Well, in economics, when you talk about the costs to Africa, it can be cost that you calculate in so many ways: loss of opportunities, lack of development, the cost of war itself, and everything that you might want to try and do. But there's somebody else somewhere else who is benefiting from that. It might be somebody who is selling weapons of war. It might be somebody else who is benefiting from the fact that there is chaos, so these countries are not able to compete. If you take a country like Nigeria, Nigeria is huge in terms of the resources that it has. If it was able to do what probably Dangote is doing, trying to domesticate or maybe what we call import substitutions within the global trade. So the difficulty within the Commonwealth is you're competing against other countries who think it might be better for Africa to continue to be the source of the raw materials they need. If Africa begins to say they're going to be, refining the oil within Africa, beneficiating all the minerals within Africa, maybe having nuclear power stations in Africa rather than sending the uranium away, that might be opposed by those countries who think that might disadvantage them. So it is not as easy as people think. That is why probably people are saying, well, they wish her well. They know that she has the ability and the capacity that she has been able to show as the foreign minister in Accra to do these things. But they are not going to be easy. But there are also other conflicts. We saw that Chief Anyaoku, the last time when he was there and he was dealing with apartheid, some of the countries that were becoming independent, he was able to do that because he was African. He could, call some of these leaders in the middle of the night and have conversations that somebody else, maybe Sonny before him or others would have not been able to have. So I think there's hope, but I think it will be unfair to try and raise the bar in terms of what she will be able to achieve in terms of achieving peace within the region. She worked within ECOWAS. She understands the issues in Central Africa, but you also have new countries like Gabon, probably Rwanda, Mozambique. Those countries are not formerly British colonies, but they are coming in with a different set of challenges that still need to be tackled. Dashin?
Okay. Now, Tamsankwa, earlier you were talking about, her leveraging on some of her relationships, especially with the UK. And some also seem to believe that, post-Brexit UK influence is significant. How would you advise her to utilize this partnership, and also engage with emerging global powers like China and India?
But you have to realize that the power to negotiate comes with the numbers and what you're offering. The Commonwealth is a country mostly of young people, but you've got about 2.7 billion people. It is a huge market. So anybody would want to, have that economic trade relation with a market that big. And also from a point of, when you look at the logistics and what you are able to achieve. So a Britain that is out of the EU will need the Commonwealth, more than ever before. And when you look at the figures at the moment, from what Britain imports from the Commonwealth and what Britain exports to the Commonwealth, there's a surplus, what we call a trade surplus of about 14 or 15 billion pounds, probably about, 18 billion probably US dollars in terms of the surplus. So Britain benefits from having the Commonwealth. So when there are others that are pushing probably for free trade, the movement of people, we know there are a lot of scholarships and other things and sports. Where are you going to have the games? If the games come to Lagos, Lagos is going to benefit, because having the games in Lagos, you're going to have the economy boost for the duration of those games. So I don't know. I mean, it's a leverage having such a big organization. So China, the United States, the Asian, the other regions or other blocks might want to work very, very closely with her. But I think Britain will be key, because the British power is within the royal family and the leadership that King Charles III and his mother before then and KG6 before her has had. Otherwise, it's debatable. When they were in Samoa over the issues of reparation, discussing the issues of slavery, it's very difficult for Britain now to assert what it would have traditionally thought was its leadership at the formation of the Commonwealth. And for probably as the former colonial master, most of these, 55 nations, small, most of them might be, but they are saying, well, we are all equals. We are all, supposed to be the same within, this club. So it's a voluntary club. But I would like to think that she's best placed to be able to talk to those, probably nations that are islands that are under threat from global, climate change issues, and talk to China with India support in there and other places. So it will be good. But trade-wise, Britain will still have a bigger word. Australia, probably Canada as well, and New Zealand. Dashan?
All right. Well, I wish we had more time to discuss this, but sadly we have to end here. Thank you so much, Tamsanka Zhu, African analyst, for speaking to us on this.
Thank you.